Yeah, I just wanted to real quickly talk about this new jaws. It's a double-sided vise that Framon makes. It's F2SH050, and does the, as you can see there, does 4 auto keys. Some of them that are harder to hold, and also interchangeable cord. It tells you where to start off on these. The problem is though, when you get these, it may need a little bit of finessing, and so I use you try to get the straightest file you can. A sharpening stone probably would work even better, but you don't want to get into the face of this part here, which I kind of took off some of the blacking, but that's not a big deal. You can see it's wider there than it is on this side, automotive. And I got the springs that go inside to help spread this out. They're just sitting in there. But for this part, I'm just going to show you real quick what I had to do. And so I use the files flat. There's no teeth on this side of it, but there is on this. And so I kind of get it at a little bit of an angle to try to stay out of, so you can see that, to try to stay out of this part here. And you just do a couple of swipes on each side. I don't do much, just enough to try to make it fit. And I've already done this, so it's pretty snug right now. And then you just slip it on there. And as you can see, that's dropped all the way down in there. And so I use a flashlight just to kind of shine underneath, just to make sure it's all the way through there. Nice and flush. And that's pretty much what you need to do on this. Because when you get it, it'll kind of sit up like this. And you'll see that little gap right there. You'll see the light through. Shine a light down through that. And as you file down, it seats down in there. So that's perfectly seated right there. And that's perfect. And they say don't try to draw that down when you first get it. You know, with the handle. You don't want to do that, because what will happen is you'll possibly run this piece here, the aluminum block on the bottom there, and then your old piece here will not want to sit on there correctly. And so this piece here, and they actually fit every one of these up by hand to some degree. They machine them. Looks like they probably use a surface grinder on them, but I'm sure every one of them, there's just slight variations. You know, my machine, I think I bought back in 2012. But so that's that. I'll go ahead and stop this, and I got another subject I want to talk about. Okay, hold on. Okay, so I've got another subject, maybe two, I want to talk about. First off, I'm going to highly recommend you buy this book. I think Amazon still has it. Possibly you can find it here or there. I'm not going to cover it too much just because it is copyrighted, and maybe it's still under the copyright. I don't know. Maybe it isn't. But I will cover this part. And that is Janice C. Pate is who put this together. And she had help from, and she talks about it. But I don't really want to go too much into this. There is some key important things on this book that, let me see here. I don't want to bore you too much. It covers quite a bit, and it's kind of, the main discussion I wanted to have was how do you determine how much you charge? You see people, they're always asking that, you know, different jobs. And this is, you know, just a preface on how to use this flat rate manual. Bottom line, you get on through here, and if I can turn that page, there's about the multiplier here. She tells you how to figure out all that stuff. Now, if you're a business owner and you have employees, your situation is going to be way different than mine or someone that's just trying to run solo. So there are those discrepancies that need to be taken into account. And this is about the multiplier, and that does not represent only the time needed to do the job. It also consists of all these other things. This is all pretty important stuff. So anyways, and she gives you some examples on this too. And it's kind of, you know, when you get into this, a lot of this is kind of old school stuff. They kind of give you some examples, you know. So then you get into, there's a whole other discussion that can be had around this whole how much do you charge thing. For example, when you do a rekey, you know, you got to determine what it's worth to you. And I bring this up because, let me turn this around just a second. Okay, yeah. So the whole thing with the flat rate and how much you charge, it's kind of lately I've gotten into the situation, sorry, I gotta move this camera around, where I've had some jobs that I usually view myself as $60 an hour. And, you know, that's only because I can work double time or time and a half and make the same amount of money with my current employer or more. I mean, depends on how I want to do it. If it's a weekend or whatever, I've got a good UAW position that I do on my normal 40-hour work week. Locksmithing is a side hustle that, you know I could do it full time if I wanted to, and I could stay actually pretty busy right now to do it if I wanted to. There's other things that I do besides locksmithing, like welding, and that's both skills take tools, you know, that are pretty important. You know, like key machines with the locksmithing, welding units, welding machines with the welding, and then all the little things like the grinders, cutoff wheels, you know, shaping hand tools and for shaping steel, as you do files, pliers, and other things with locksmithing. But I've come across some jobs here recently where at $60 an hour, I just don't feel like working that hard to do it. It's not that the job is hard, it's just not worth my trouble to go and do some jobs. But say $1,000 to do this job, yes, you know, I would do that. And so I've kind of come across this with some of my customers that all my customers are my friends. You know, if they're not friends before they become my customer, they will be when I'm done. And I always try to do everyone right. But as when I look further into my business model of how I operate, I've decided that I may cut back on the welding side of it, because it is there's to some degree some liabilities with some of the stuff I weld, and I don't want to get caught up in that. And the other side of it is I love welding. I'll always do welding for my own stuff, or even to make something to sell. You know, you should always have a product, you know, whether you do locksmithing or everything else. But so for what my situation is when I have a customer and they go to a shop and they say they can do the job, and it's excuse me, I've got text coming up. They tell this person that they can get this job done, but it's going to be $2,000, and they're okay with that, you know, paying them, but it might take 6 months to get them lined up, to get them in. Well, maybe I can do that job in 6 hours, you know. So if the job is worth $2,000, do I do it for $60 an hour for 6 hours, or, you know, do I charge them, you know, $2,000 or a little bit less than that? You know, I mean, so it gets into, you know, we sometimes shouldn't look at our value, you know, as charging by our hourly rate, but more on the value of the job that we do. You shouldn't get punished because you can do a job quicker than someone else. So, and I bring this up because it's a weird discussion you can have, and I can see it several ways. I mean, as you're a person that is paying for a service, if you pay a guy to do a handrail, you know, and it takes 1 week and it's $2,000, materials included, you know, and another guy comes in and he gets done in a day, same material, less labor, do I pay that guy $2,000? I mean, I know there's an agreement of, if I tell you, you know, it takes a week, you know, it's $2,000, and you agree to it, and the other guy says it's $2,000, and you say okay, and he goes, I think I can get it done before a week, and he gets it done within a day or two. You know, are you going to be mad because you just paid this other guy $2,000 and he got it done in less? And I remember we had this argument in the locksmith community where one of the old school locksmiths, we're talking about opening cars. I mean, I know some locksmiths still frown on long range tools, you know, where you go through the door, the upper part of the door frame, you know, where the windows are, and you can reach in and pop it open. And you do it in a fraction of the time of someone that has a door cavity tool that goes through the window or in the door, does all this stuff, and it takes longer. And if it's raining, sleet, and snow, you know. But I had locksmiths tell me that they would do it if it took longer because they didn't feel right charging their rate for something that only took them 5 minutes with a long reach tool. It's like, what would it matter? The job is the job. If I get a customer to agree with the job over the phone, as say, like, if I'm locally, you know, a mile away, 2 miles away, The guy calls, he's got, what do you say, multiple doorknobs that need to be done. I tell him it's $75 right off the top of my head for your first keyhole. And then after that, it's $15 per keyhole. Assuming you got a working key. You know, if you don't have a working key, the variables change, because I usually charge a little bit more if I got to pick them open to get them apart, shim them, whatever. So that's usually $5 more. But right off the bat, I always tell a customer, I throw my trip fee in with the first keyhole. So 60, you know, plus the 15, so 75. And maybe 80, you know, if they don't have a key. You know up front. And I can tell them, however many of the keyholes, you just had to figure out $15 per or 20, you know, if they don't have a key. So that's how, you know, I charge. But my $15, you know, per keyhole was just something I come up with. I didn't really do a whole lot of math and research, you know, and I can say, let's come over here. I have a thing here that's, let me see if I can pull it. Tell you what, let me get a flashlight. This is the national average here, the national standards, the national average. And I don't know if I can see that. Turn my light down. I always keep this in my van. People want to argue about, you know, stuff. It's kind of pixelated. I don't even know if it'll show up, but if you can see that. Anyways, here, I will take a picture of that and I will. Put it in there. But if I do per keyhole, the national average, it actually says labor charges as of 2019, 2020. The first key and knob is $19. And so that's, you know, that's national average. So I'm just a little bit in there as far as on my price. But that's it. There's a high and a low. And if you're starting off in a business, you don't want to be the cheapest guy in town. In fact, I know people that they get busy, and so they will charge higher based on you know, how soon someone wants it. You know, if they can't wait, you know, they charge more, and they'll still get the bid. Customers sometimes they will go out there and shop around to find the cheapest guy, and then sometimes they won't. Hold on just a second. Okay, I'm back. That was about 15-20 minutes ago that I paused the video, and I tried to restart it a couple of times. I wasn't liking what was coming out. I don't want to beat the horse to death on the whole pricing thing. You can watch, there's all kinds of channels out there that kind of talk about, you know, what to charge for different things. People need to determine what their charge is going to be. If you use the flat rate manual, if you have other people, a lot of expenses, that will help you determine what your rates might be better. And you can adjust up or down based on that. Fix this. Personally, I just kind of threw in what I want to make, because I could go make that certain amount. For when I first started my rates, I was working for a different company. Where I'm at now, I could probably make more working there on overtime, but I would rather keep my locksmith business going. And I could actually raise my locksmith rates if I wanted to and still be fine, because in this area that I live in, I'm not the cheapest guy, but I'm also you know, not the, you know, I'm also, there's plenty of room for me to go up to make it more worthy of my time. There's the principle called the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule. You should look it up. There's a whole lot of different ways to discuss it, but part of it is that they talk about the cause and effect. That let me see if I can read this directly. More generally, the Pareto principle is the observation. It's not actually a law like a Newton's law or, you know, anything like that, but it's the observation that most things in life are not distributed evenly. And it can mean all of the following, like 20% of the input creates 80% of the result. 20% of the workers produce 80% of the result. 20% of the customers create 80% of the revenue. There's all kinds of ways you can put that ratio, but like with locksmithing, if you focus on the 20% that makes the most money, then you're not wasting all your time on all these other low-hanging things. That, I mean, if you have someone working for you and you're paying them an hourly rate, and you know you're paying them to do nothing but sit around, sure, send them out on you know, opening up cars, emergency work, stuff like that. But otherwise, you're better to focus on the 20% that makes the most money, because that 20% will make you 80% of your entire profit or income. So, like with locksmithing, a guy that does safe work, he will make a lot of money doing just safes, and he won't work 24/7. it will be, he can, if you work 40 hours just on safes, you're going to be rich. But most people don't work that way. So a safe guy will just, if all he does is focus on safes, he might get 1 or 2 calls a week. He may get several a day. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a safe guy, but you know, they don't stay that busy all the time. Maybe they're working for a locksmith shop, and that locksmith shop will keep them and just have them kind of hang out and do whatever they want to do. But then they're there for the safe jobs, because safe jobs are a niche expertise. Automotive guys, there's a lot of automotive guys, and they do fobs and stuff, and that's where they get their, they focus their time on those 20% activities that will make them 80% of their income. And so for me, commercial work is where the real money's at. I can do homes and stuff all day long, and I'll never make the same kind of money as commercial work. And that's because in commercial work, for me, sure, there's a lot of money in rekeys, like going out to a building and rekeying a lot of the locks. But with commercial, there's more of a chance to upsell. To make the most of your money, you can actually sell commercial hardware. And then there's a lot more money in commercial hardware, because, I mean, I had a place where they had to have fire-rated panic bars. The panic bar was almost over $1,000 per panic bar, and that's wholesale. And so when you look at retail, then it goes up to $2,000. And I don't even remember that. I think Hagar was the brand I was actually having to bid. And that's because it's on a fire-rated door, and I wanted to reuse all the original holes. I didn't want to find this fire rating issue where I had to patch existing holes, by retrofitting a new deal, because then it gets into door issues, fire rating. And I'm not, I'm not big on the. I'm not fire door certified, but I understand the rules of fire doors. There's a whole lot of, you can have a whole discussion on that. But so I tried to match exactly what was on it. Well, this place was leasing the building, and so they didn't want to spend that much money, which is fine. Don't. I told them you can call another locksmith and have them come in there and sell you a cheap one. And they still had to do all the same amount of footwork I did, and they may have made a lot less, but they spent more of their time being, it's not productive. I don't get paid to go and do research, on hardware. And so I steer clear of all those jobs where a guy wants a fancy, push button system. Unless I've already got it in my back pocket what I know I'm going to use, I usually will pass on those jobs, because I'm more of a appointment only guy, and I don't want to spend all my time non-productive, talking to suppliers and engineers. And sometimes I will if it's a customer I've always dealt with. But you got to make all the time you use in locksmithing profitable. And if you're not, then that's you're focusing on the 80%. So the 20% is what I know I can get. I can get that door bar, that panic bar, or that door hardware. I just call my supplier and I go down and pick it up. It's done. If it takes a lot of research, I usually pass. And that's where a lot of locksmiths do the free, free quotes. If you have a guy that's doing nothing, send him out and have him quote the job. And if he has to take 2 or 3 trips to try to get measurements and more information, great, because you're already paying this guy. At least you're getting something out of it. But for someone like me, it's solo. I don't make money on sitting around looking for parts and catalogs, trying to retrofit stuff. If I don't have it right there, if I can't just make a couple quick phone calls, I don't worry about it. So that kind of runs into that. So that's where, the business side of locksmithing, it becomes, this is the boring talks sometimes you got to have with people that are interested in locksmithing. There are a lot of boring things that, you get into with the locksmithing that, and it's usually around the business side. I know people like to watch rekey stuff. You've seen all those videos. Now we're getting into the business stuff. Mr. Locksmith is one of them that does that. Guardian Lock and Key, Lock and Safe. He does talk business. SE Lock does too. There's a few others out there that do. It's a very hard subject to come across, and I'm sorry I had to bore you if you watched this far into it, bore you along with this, but that's kind of how I operate. I do rekeys. I do most everything they call me to do. I don't waste my time chasing jobs. If there's a job that says they have a panic bar acting up, I'll go out there and I will fix it, and I'll charge them, if it's a commercial deal, I'll charge them a commercial rate, which now that goes into a whole other category too. You don't want to be the guy that's always got different prices for everything. If a guy says, well, last time you came out here you charged this and you did the same thing, I try to know my rates. You don't want to go to a restaurant, and then each time it costs something different, and it's like, what is this? I did the same thing and it cost me, you know, $10 less last time. You know, try to keep your rates fair and consistent. But on the other hand, you got to understand, you know, don't waste your time on jobs, chasing jobs. You know, just pass. You know, save yourself for the jobs that you know you can do, and spend your time on the jobs where you're actually making money. I don't make money looking at catalogs. Even on commercial jobs, it's easy to waste 4 hours, and it's $60 an hour. That's 4 hours worth, you know, of time that I'll never get back. And even then, it's like, yeah, if I get a wholesale price and I can retail it, great. But you got 4 hours of time you just lost to try to do that. So this is the boring discussion we're going to have on this. There's a whole other thing about, you know, there's the how you price yourselves. Are we worth the hourly rate, or is it the value of the job, you know? And I'll try to cover that too very briefly. That so you get into this whole thing of, if you're paying by the job, doesn't matter what the guy charges. So I don't know. That's a whole. If you want more, if you want to have that discussion on this, let me know. I've watched a few things recently, and it's kind of made me rethink my hourly rates, my time, and especially with the welding. If I can do a hard job that you would pay someone else $1,000 to do, but I can get it done in 2 hours and at $60 an hour, it just doesn't feel like it's worth it to me to have done that same job for $120 when you was willing to pay $1,000 over there. So at that point, I don't want to offer an hourly rate. I want to charge by the job. What does it take for me to want to do that job? And it's not greedy. This is time of your life that you will never get back. It's reduced down to money, that you will never get this time back. And so I don't buy things with money. I buy things with time of my life that I've given away. So I guess that's just another way to view it. So and I don't even know where I really rest on this. It's just more of a philosophical side of business, and because I don't have employees, I can have this discussion. I can talk about it. I don't have a storefront to worry about. I can charge whatever I want, but it's something to think about if you're solo, or even if you have a business. You know how you look at stuff. So with that, I'm going to shut up. This has drug on way longer than I had planned on it. I'm sorry it took so long, and I hope I wasn't too redundant, and I hope some of it made sense. If it didn't, I'm going to try to throw a couple links in here. And if you read the description, maybe it'll kind of give you an idea of where my thoughts have been about this. And my thinking changes, and it's ever evolving. So thanks for watching. I'm sorry it took so long if I bored you. I appreciate you sticking around with me. All right, bye-bye.